Welcome to the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast, where we deconstruct the methods, marketing, and mindset of successful business people and chiropractors from around the world. And now your host, Dr. Richard Day.
Yes, I am Dr. Richard Day. It's true. And this is the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast. Thanks again for spending some of your very valuable time with me. Well, today is part 2 of my interview with the really impressive Mr. Bharon Hoag. He's going to share more of his insights with you on how to make your practice better. In case you missed part 1, go back and check that one out. So without further ado, Mr. Bharon Hoag. I want to shift and talk to you a little bit about a common thing I hear from chiropractors who are struggling. And they'll tell me that they're struggling, and I'll say, well, who are you serving? What's your ideal patient? And their answer is, well, anyone with a spine. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's one of the problems. You know, I say this jokingly a lot of times, that a chiropractor's philosophy is a heartbeat and spine, your mind. You know, I'm everything to everybody. I'll never turn anybody away. And I was just using this analogy this weekend, and I said, you know, it was a young chiropractor in a small town of Findlay, Ohio. And her and her husband, she came out of practice. She was less than a year, and she had bought an existing clinic, and she was just struggling. She's like, you know, I can't get over 5-10 people a day. And, you know, I'm out there trying to tell the story. And she wasn't a super great communicator, but she definitely was able to communicate. And she was just struggling. And so I sat down and I said, what turns you on about being a chiropractor? I mean, what is your perfect patient? And she said the same thing. She's like, well, you know, someone that's in pain. I said, no, that's garbage. What turns you on? What kind of patient did you love when you were in clinic at school? What kind of patient did you hope came in so that you could do what you do? And she finally, through a process, said, it's children. I love treating kids. I said, rock on. So from this day forward, that's all you're going to treat. I thought her husband was going to take my head off. She was just like, or he was like, dude, you're nuts. I mean, we've only got 3 kids and we're going to go bankrupt. I said, I'm not saying you kick people out immediately. I'm saying you're putting all of your energy into just treating children. And I want you to market that way. I want you to design your office that way. I want you, the only time you ever go outside of your office from a marketing perspective is if you're doing something that attracts that demographic. And I said, and within a year, you will only treat children. You're not even going to treat their parents. You're treating their children. Because that is your why. That is your purpose for what you do. A year later, that office exploded. She is so happy and so in balance that now their problem is they're so busy that she's got her own family and she doesn't want to work that hard. So she's now bringing in another chiropractor that is going to help supplement the workload. But it was because she got so fired up because she didn't have to worry about the work comp, the PI, the major med, the Medicaid, all the people that sucked the life out of her. She was able just to focus on the things that motivated her. Even those high maintenance parents with kids, because just because you pick pediatrics doesn't mean they're all going to be great patients. But she was motivated to deal with that drama because her passion was for children to be treated. When you're dealing with work comp and PI and you hate those things, that drama sucks the life out of you. It doesn't motivate you. So when you build a clinic and say, this is my why, you see, as chiropractors, we run from our differences. You know, we have a huge spectrum of the population that needs what we do. Some of them are looking for pain care. Some of them are looking for wellness care. Some of them are looking for everything in between. And we need chiropractors that are going to meet those needs. And then me, as a chiropractor, I need to be comfortable saying, this patient is not right for my office. I'm going to refer you down the street to Jim because he loves dealing with your types of conditions. He's built for workers' comp, understands the system, has great relationships. He'll ensure that you get the care you need for your system. When you're done with your workers' comp, then you can come back to me and I'm happy to continue with our wellness program. Or if you're adults and you have kids and you want to get your kids treated and you just want to be a pediatric chiropractor, not a family chiropractor, but a pediatric, then say, you know what, I've got a chiro down the street that's awesome that deals with the adults. My specialty is with kids. You know, there's a reason why medicine started specializing because there's so much to being the best in that one area. I don't buy that you can be the best chiropractor treating all of these different conditions. because they're so broad and they're so specific. We don't have to lose who we are as chiropractors and the fundamental principle that the body heals itself and we're removing nerve interference, but it's the skill and art of communicating to kids, the skill and art of navigating parents and understanding why kids need to come in. That's a completely different skill set than dealing with an injured worker, helping them understand why we need to get them to pre-injury. So if you're going to put all your energy in one direction, you can literally build the kind of practice you want to have. In the meantime, you can create a referral source that's insane. Because as you're sending all your work comp over to Jim, guess what he's doing with all his pediatric patients? He's sending them to you. Because he doesn't want to deal with those. If he's so busy doing work comp, which is what he loves, why would he alter his method of treating patients to see kids? So obviously this is going to take a large group of people to buy into it for it to work, but that's where we've got to start getting to. So I want chiropractors to be comfortable to say, I don't take work comp. I don't take Medicare. I don't take those things, and do it because it's a belief system rather than a fear that I need those patients in order to generate enough money for me to survive. And when you start loving the people you see every day and you love the direction you're going, again, you're going to perpetuate that magnetic passion that people want to be around. Oh man, you've got to go see my chiropractor. They are just killing it. They love treating people, and you need to go because they're just on fire for what they're doing. So I don't think chiropractors should be everything to everybody, even though they're capable of treating those people. They don't want to treat those people. Chiropractors need to decide, this is the kind of chiropractor I want to be because I love treating those kinds of patients, and then it becomes a lot more fun.
I love what you're saying when I put it in the context of the medical profession. If I was in seeing a cardiologist and I had another concern and he said, well, I do a little urology on the side, I would maybe want to go see a specialist and not the one-size-fits-all, hey, look, I own it all and I do eat all of it reasonably well. I think that specialization idea is wonderful. And if the profession's not there yet, what great advice for a chiropractor who maybe is trying to be all things to all people to drill down on what it is, which is your core skill set and strength.
Absolutely.
Let's shift right now. I want to go into the bigger picture of success and failure in life. We all learn a lot from success, and you have been very successful in your career, but we learn even more from our failures. Can you share with us one failure you've had in life and the lessons you've learned?
Yeah, brother, I want to tell you, I've had more failure than success. I don't believe success comes without failure. If success is given to you, it's not success because you didn't earn it. You just got to get lumped into a situation where, everything went well for you. I wish I was the kind of guy that did things the right way the first time, but unfortunately I have made every possible mistake there is to make. And because of my faith in God and because of my belief system that it's not about me, it's about Him through me, I'm just bold to tell people about my mistakes. And so I'm confident to say, because I screwed up here, I believe this way. So, and I'll just do a recent one. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I mean, I've been out of balance in my marriage. I've been a horrible parent. I've done so many things throughout my years that, but one of my most recent was actually when I was with the Ohio State Chiropractic Association. I had never worked for a board before. I had never worked with a board and an association. I've always worked for myself and just kind of made my decisions, and my philosophy of business is the only thing that mattered. And when I came to the association, they were bankrupt. They were struggling bad. And so I just went right into business mode and started doing and making decisions and doing things, and making decisions that other people didn't understand. I'm all about investing into the business. I'm all about making sure that we're not duplicating mistakes, that we're purchasing and buying and we're valuing our people and we're investing in the organization even more than making a profit. And so my first year with the association, I just went ape nuts. We grew like 200 and some members. I raised the dues, so we generated a lot of cash. So I just started, giving raises to people. I started buying equipment that we needed so we didn't have to rent it in years to come, and doing all kinds of stuff. But I never told anybody about it. I never asked for permission. I never did any of the stuff that apparently I was supposed to do. And it created a huge level of controversy within the organization because here they had an executive director that was just out spending all this money. And it rocked me because it got to the point where it really appeared that, I had embezzled this money and done all of this kind of stuff, but it was really just my ignorance of knowing how to communicate stuff. And it forced me to sit back and think, wow, Bharon, how do you go from, running large companies and doing those things to getting into a situation where you failed to communicate well, which is kind of your skill set, man. And so I had to sit back, and it really made me think, Bharon, you are successful at the stuff you do, but at the end of the day, it comes down to making sure the people that are around you are buying into your mindset. People have used the analogy that I'm a bull in a china shop, and I am, because I'm so driven with my purpose that resistance doesn't bother me, man. I just kind of bust through it, and either I fail and I readjust my course, or I succeed, but I'm okay with either one. I literally am not afraid of failing. It's not anything that scares me, because I've done it so much that I've learned that failure alters my course to a path of success. And oftentimes my successes are so much bigger than they ever would have been because of the course of failure that I had. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. But what I learned in that process was I have got to understand that part of true leadership is making sure that you have a team of people that have bought in and they're going to fight for you. And I didn't do that. I just came in and it was kind of all about me. And it's like, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I know it needs to be done. You guys don't know. Obviously, you guys were in all this trouble before I came, so you obviously don't know. I know. You hired me to do it. Get out of my way so I can do it. And that was just a horrible attitude. And so I learned, I'm 41 years old, so I'm not all that old. I've lived a lot of life in my years, and it's just been by tucking my head and driving. And so that experience taught me you can't just do that. It doesn't even matter if your decisions were right. If the perception of them is wrong, it's wrong. And that's what had happened. And it altered my reputation to a certain extent. And people were like, man, I thought Bharon was this great business person. What the heck is he doing? And so it was a huge lesson for me to make sure that I started communicating on a level that those around me, whether I felt I needed their permission or not, I wanted it. And that's a huge issue we have as people. Sometimes we feel like we shouldn't have to do things because of who we are. As a doctor with your staff, you shouldn't have to explain to them why you want them to do something. They work for you. You write the checks. They just do it. Well, it's not an issue of having to. It's an issue of wanting to. That's leadership. Leadership is wanting people around you to get it so that they're doing it out of their own motivation, not out of the motivation that's being thrust upon them. And that's a huge lesson I learned. And so after that year, I altered my management style. And we were able to continue our growth, sustain our growth to where we hit record levels of membership in the history of the organization. But if it wouldn't have been for that huge failure, my first year with them, I'm not convinced we would have had the ultimate success that we did, because it forced me to humble myself. It forced me to learn things that at the time I wasn't willing to learn. And I just became a better person in general because of that mistake.
Communication. It's so important. Communication with our patients, communication with our staff, and in your case, communication with your coworkers. I hear it over and over and over. If there's one thing we can improve, it's our communication. So what a valuable lesson, and thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And it's the most difficult thing to do because we get so busy and so caught up in our own mindset that we feel we shouldn't have to do that. So it's just flipping that idea that I don't have to, I want to.
I want to shift and talk about some other things regarding success. When you think of the word successful, who do you think of?
It's funny because I don't think of the average person you would, like a Steve Jobs or any other major, Donald Trump or anything like that. Just because of the lessons that I've learned and the mistakes that I've made, a truly successful person is somebody that is balanced in their life to a point where they continue to want more. I deal this. I was just having this conversation this weekend with a chiropractor that he's like, dude, I'm swamped. I listen to some of these guys saying that they don't have enough patients. In my mind, I feel like I have too many. He's like, I literally don't even want any more new patients because it just means more paperwork and it means more time in the office and missing my family and doing all of that. So what one chiropractor thinks success is, which is all these patients and visits, another one's seeing that as an issue that's keeping them out of balance. The most successful people I've ever met are people that are just able to say, I'm successful enough in every area of my life that I'm balanced. And I don't like the word content because being content sometimes means we stop wanting to achieve and change. But when you're balanced, it gives you a vision and an ability to think of new ideas to impact the people around you. So really, one of the most successful chiropractors I know is a guy named Dr. Craig Huffer in Ohio. He's in a small town of Jackson Center, Ohio. And that guy has just done such a great job of duplicating success that he's balanced. He's able to give to his family. He's able to give politically. He's very involved in the profession. He's going to be a past president of the state association. But he's got a lot of stuff going on in his life, but he's balanced. He makes sure his family is in there. He's got a crazy busy office, but he shares that and he pays his associates well. He's not trying to acquire. He's trying to give. He believes that the hole you give through is the hole you receive through. And so he just That is success to me. There's another guy, Dr. Terry McCoskey, that lives in a different area. Every Sunday is a family day. Literally. Even after this point, all of his kids are off and married. But every Sunday they come in together and they do food, they do lunch together and church together, and they just fellowship. That's balance to me. That's success. It's not that either one of those guys are making $1 billion and have a building named after them, but they're just making the world what it needs to be for them, and they have that balance. So that's, to me, success.
Do you have any daily habits, rituals, or affirmations that you do every day to help you succeed?
Yeah, first and foremost is pray. I've tried to live this world on my own energy, and man, I am like a one-man devastation crew when I do it on my thing. I because I'm so bold and big-mouthed and driven, that when I'm doing it for my reasons, it just gets ugly. So my very first thing I do, and I'm not going to lie and say I do it religiously, but I do it more than I don't, is the first thing I do when I wake up is I'm like, all right, Lord, today is yours, not mine. Help me to get out of my own way and see what you see. Because I have to be grounded. When you travel and you speak and you do these things, and there was a point of my life where it really, I was making a lot of mistakes because of it, but people lift you up all the time and say how great you are and how wonderful you are. And, I wish more people were like you. And so you start buying into that crap and saying, well, I am great. Dang it. Why isn't this person? Why doesn't my wife see me that way? Why don't my kids treat me that way? Do they have any idea how cool I am? Man, everyone tells me how cool I am. Why don't they see it? And we start buying into that stuff. And it's very easy when you're traveling the country on a big stage for people to come up and just worship you, if you will, for a lack of a better term. And it can get to your head. And so my ritual is to constantly remind myself that I am a broken, miserable piece of flesh, that the only thing in me that's good is Christ, and that I've got to claim that every day to make sure that when I go out and I do things, I'm doing them for that purpose, not for my own glory. And that's a very important thing. The other thing that I'm just starting to do, that I'm starting to love, is, I also believe as human beings, we need to be congruent with what we're saying. Simon Sinek says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. And that was such a pivotal statement to me that, holy cow, I got the why part down. People know what I believe and why. But my actions, what I do, oftentimes is not a reflection of what I believe. So I'm in talking about health, and meanwhile I'm overweight. And that just isn't good. So a new ritual that I'm doing with the change into one chiropractic is I get up every morning and I go to the gym for an hour. And it's been incredible. I've been doing it for 3 months now, and it's been an incredible thing. I'm not in there doing CrossFit or anything like that. I don't want to be a grease monkey. It's just a time of reflection, and it's focusing me. And I do the treadmill, I walk, I meditate, I listen to my music. And it just starts my day. I come home, I shower, I make my standard process shake, and I get into my work. And it's created this whole new clarity for me about my day that has helped me to say, you know what? I'm in congruency with what I believe, because I'm making the habits in my life that make a difference. So, I think for each people, I love Bob Hoffman, and they have an affirmation they teach their people, and I think those things are great, and I definitely would never downplay them. But whoever's listening, you've got to find a ritual for you. You've got to find what that weakness or that thing, and be honest with yourself. I mean, that's part of why I love looking in the mirror, because it forces you to see the crap that you want to lie about when you can't see it on a regular basis. But you've got to find something that is for you. A lot of Christians say, oh, I get up and I do my devotionals. Well, half of them are just reading the words and they're checking a box. There's no ownership of what they're reading. There's no real commitment to what they're learning. So I just think that it is important to get into rituals, but you've got to create those accountability measures that remind you, I'm trying to improve myself in this area, and then share it with somebody. I've got 3 or 4 guys that I text and call with that are my accountability guys that are asking, Baron, did you go to the gym this morning? Baron, did you stop eating that junk? Or Baron, did you stop looking at that dumb website? Or whatever the case may be, that they're my guys that I know when that text comes through, it's just that little reminder. And so I think that's another really important ritual that people need to do, is they need to surround themselves with people that they can be honest with. And most people surround themselves with people that enable their habits. Like if I'm a smoker, most of my other friends are smokers, so that we can all go out and smoke together and people aren't driving me nuts. If I'm a drinker, I surround myself with drinkers. Well, I'm the kind of guy that if I have an issue with that, then I'm going to surround myself with people that don't do that so that I feel horrible if I'm doing something they're not doing. Because we all get affected by groupthink. We're all affected by our environment, what's acceptable and not. And so I think that's another real strong key for someone. If you have issues you can't get over, surround yourself with people that don't think that's okay. And then you're going to naturally want to be evolved into that group that you're going to start making those changes. So those are just a few of the things that I do to try to keep myself on track.
All great advice. Well, sadly, we're coming to the end of the interview. I want to thank you for spending so much time with us and sharing your thoughts. I do have a few final thoughts before we conclude. Do you have a favorite book you'll recommend to Mojo Nation?
You know, this one's really funny because I just read it. One of the projects we're working on is the Patriot Project, which hopefully many people have heard, and it's an effort of a chiropractor to try to get chiropractic care to the military. And Dr. Tim Novelli, who is the founder of the Patriot Project, has allowed me to kind of jump on board and help with some of the things. So I've had the privilege of meeting some Medal of Honor recipients, Congressional Medal of Honor recipients. And Clint Romashaw is one of those individuals. And I've had the privilege of, as he's just experienced chiropractic and helping with a number of things in his own personal life, but I got to learn his story and his story of resilience. And I'm not a gigantic reader, so I'm more of a listener than I am a reader. But he just came out with a book called Red Platoon. And it's really a autobiography of the situation that got him his Congressional Medal of Honor. But the way that he writes it, it literally rocked my world to understand the important role that the people around us play. I don't know if that was the intent of his book, but that's what I got out of it, because he spends the entire book talking about everybody but himself. And talking about how important these people were to the mission, and how important, even with the chaos of what was going on in that particular forward operating base, it was just insane to me to see how important it was to take really account of the people around you that are part of your platoon, whatever platoon that is, whether that's your clinic and your office staff and things of that nature. But I literally read that book. It's like 500 and some pages of small print, and that tells you how much I hate reading. I go for the books with bigger print, so I feel good about myself. But, it's small print, 400 pages, and I finished it in 5 days. First time in my life I've ever finished a book in that quick. But, it was just, one, it was personal to me because I knew Clint, but the lessons I got out of it, whether they were intended or not, really helped me. And it's also changed the way that I'm communicating and working with some of the team members that we have within One Chiropractic, because I'm looking at them from a different perspective because of the way that Clint was able to communicate the story of his mission. And so I highly recommend the book. It's an inexpensive book. So it's called Red Platoon by Clint Romashaw.
Well, what's the best way for people to contact you or to find out more about onechiropractic.org? I guess it's right in the name there. And Talk the Tick. Yeah,
so, both. Our website is onechiropractic.org. One is spelled out, O-N-E. I highly recommend people feel free to reach out to me. My email address is just Bharon, B-H-A-R-O-N, at onechiropractic.org. I make a point of responding to every email I get. So, and just reach out. And Talk the Tick is, again, it's talkthetick.com. If you want to learn more about getting involved with your school and mentoring students on that, or you can reach out directly to myself as well, and I can get you connected with some of the needs that we have in that area. But I'd love to talk with anybody. I'm all over the profession, speaking at different events. So if you do listen to this, I'd love for you to come up and introduce yourself. Man, I just love chiropractic, and those that love it are instant friends of mine. So I would love to run into some people as we're out there.
Mr. Bharon Hoag, thank you so much for being part of our show today.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Doc, for creating a platform for people to start understanding that although we can stay focused on the mission, sometimes you need to develop those core principles to make it a success. And so I love your podcast, appreciate you and the things that you're doing both in the campus of Cleveland, but as well through your effort here in the Chiropractic Business Mojo. It's much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast at www.chirobusinessmojo.com. Thanks for listening to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast at www.chirobusinessmojo.com.